All right, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are now live.
Good evening and welcome to the October 23rd meeting of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. My name is Bob Sutton. I'm the chair, and I would like for commission members and staff to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Commissioner Galway.
Zara Nasser.
Jeffrey Haynes.
Cristina Arado.
Commissioner Dolman.
Mark Dominiani.
Commissioner Burdett.
Thank you.
John Liebert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Rebecca Ballo, Historic Preservation Staff.
And Dan Bruckert, Historic Preservation Staff.
Sorry, correction, 25th. I can't count. That's why I was a historian. Okay, first of all, we'd like to have our agenda, historic area work permits. Have the work permits been advertised?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they were advertised in the October 11th edition of the Washington Times.
Thank you. If there's anyone here to testify in any of the cases, please give the speaker your name, and we will have you come here. But first of all, we'd like to have the expedited cases, and if there's anyone to speak against any of these, please let us know. So, find them here. Well, one of these days I'll find it. Here we go. Case number 1A at 15035 Hyattstown Mill Road in Hyattstown. Case number 1B at 7307 Tacoma Avenue, Tacoma Park. Case number 1C at 1 High Street, Brookville. Case number 1D at 11 Hesketh Street, Chevy Chase. Case number 1E at 3924 Prospect Street in Kensington. Case number 1F at 7324 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Mr. Chair, hearing no objections, I move that we approve the following historic area work permits in accordance with staff reports based upon the record before us in consideration of the recommendations of the local advisory panels and including the conditions recommended by staff. Hop number 1043867 at 15035 Hyattstown Mill Road. Hop number 1043533 at 7307 Tacoma Avenue, Tacoma Park. Hop number 1045881 at 1 High Street, Brookville. Hop number 1044886 at 11 Hesketh Street, Chevy Chase. Hop number 1045493 at 3924 Prospect Street, Kensington. And hop number 1045815 at 7324 Baltimore Avenue, Tacoma Park.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Nasser, all second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? Thank you so much. We appreciate the work that you've done to get these projects in shape so that we can easily approve them. That makes our lives a lot easier as well. The next item on our agenda is item 1G at 19,000 Muncaster Road in Durwood. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a brief staff presentation. This is the historic area work permit application at 19,000 Muncaster Road. It's also known as the Ridge. It was a federal-style house. We've got dates of both 1748 and 1750. The house has several later additions, also there's a circa 1860 log smokehouse and a variety of other non-historic structures. Just so you're not confused, in 1925 they took the gable roof and turned it into a gambrel for reasons that we don't fully understand in our records, but that's why it looks like it's a Dutch colonial. The remaining environmental setting, which is just under 7 acres, is what remains from what was historically a 1,000-acre plantation. And you can see that there's suburban development that's been constructed around the master plan site is here. So the applicant proposes to install a prefabricated shed. It'll measure 12 feet by 16 feet at the rear of the property on a gravel pad in the location where the circle is. This will be reviewed under 24A and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation. The shed is installed on the property, so this hop is to be reviewed as though no work has taken place, even though it's seeking retroactive appeal. This reorients the site a little bit with the house in the lower middle. There's a gravel and paved driveway. The swimming pool is off to your left, the log cabin to the right, and then the shed is here just under 11 feet off of the property line. This is the shed. It has a side gable roof with asphalt shingles, vinyl siding, carriage-style doors, 4/4 windows, and vinyl shutters. Again, it's installed at the rear of the property. You can see the neighboring house back here. So staff finds that the location of the proposed shed will not disrupt the rural farm setting of the master plan site and is consistent with an assemblage of agricultural buildings. Staff finds the size of the proposed shed will not overwhelm any of the historic structures on the property. It's actually smaller than the log cabin. Staff finds the shed's simple design is generally compatible with the architectural character of the master plan site and will not detract from the historic architectural details. So staff finds the materials, with one exception, are compatible with the character of the site. But staff does not find the vinyl exterior to be an appropriate material because of its shiny appearance that will not fade over time and develop a patina. So in the staff report, staff recommended the HPC condition the approval so that the siding be a more compatible. T111 was identified because the manufacturer manufactures prefabricated sheds that utilize T111, but also a wood clapboard siding would also be compatible. So staff finds that the vinyl siding contravenes standards 2 and 9. And with the recommended condition, staff recommends that the HPC approve the hop under 24A8B2, standards 2, 9, and 10. I also want to note that we received some comments from a neighbor who is not going to be here this evening. Those were included in your board books. There are a number of concerns, but generally, the neighbor's argument is that, he states, I believe that it would change the character and nature of the historical site, and that the shed will no longer have the same appearance resembling a historic site, but instead an out-of-place shed meant to block the public view. We just note that this is at the rear, and the public view is limited. So with that, I will answer any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Doman?
Have you been in conversation with the homeowner about the shed?
I've not.
Is the homeowner here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, then I'll save my questions for the homeowner. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions for staff? If not, I would ask Mr. Richard Miller, correct, to come forward. And if you would go to where one of the microphones are, push the button, turn it on, and if you could state your name for the record, that would be terrific. And you can, if you would like, you can do a presentation. You'll have 7 minutes to do a presentation, or if you'd prefer, you can answer questions, whichever you would prefer.
Okay. My name is Richard Miller, co-owner of the Ridge with my wife. In terms of presentation, I just had some comments, or I guess I could answer questions first. Let's go with some questions and.
Why don't you do your comments first, and then
Okay.
that's usually the format that we have here,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. First, thank you for hearing our appeal, or our proposal. I will attempt to keep it short. Also, my apologies for the fact that this is happening retroactively. We took over ownership of the Ridge in approximately August of 2021. In advance of buying the property, we've done some research. My wife called the Historic Commission and talked to somebody, asked about what restrictions there were on the property, and was told that the restrictions were strictly tied to the historic structures on the property, and that there were no other restrictions. So in terms of applying for a shed, we thought it was a standard process as if anybody else would be putting a shed on their property, get the permit from Department of Permitting Services and go forward. I started that process in March of '22. because the property is historic. The plats associated with it are not particularly up to date, so kept going back and forth with them on a proper site plan that they could evaluate to make an assessment. Nobody at any point in time said, hey, this needs a hop before we can even consider and look at it. Eventually, it got to that point, and leads me here to you today. In terms of the timing of the shed, the neighbor that has offered commentary opposing the shed, unfortunately, we've had some troubles with behind us. It's the co-owner of a rehabilitation facility that has bought 5 properties behind us, and it's disgruntled because we are one of the lead plaintiffs in fighting back against what we consider an inappropriate expansion of a commercial organization in our neighborhood. They offered to drop their opposition to our shed proposal if we dropped out of the lawsuit, which is laughable. So that gives you a little context on those comments. As you can see in this picture here, this is a view from our backyard. I love patina as much as anybody else, and you can see some patina on our well shed there. Although that is probably adversely going to affect the wood long-term, so I do need to paint it to try to protect the wood from rotting out. You can see the shed right behind there, and then you can see the one property that they own directly behind us on 5 Granby Court, which is a 4,000 square foot house with 8 bedrooms, 5.5 baths, and people frequently traveling back and forth and hanging out on the back porch that is, I don't know, substantial 150 square feet on the back of that house. So that's why the shed helps offer some privacy and protection. We bought it in that style to, again, fit in with the historic nature of the property. We want to keep the look and feel of the property as much as anybody else. And we unfortunately moved forward with it because of some testimony and friction we had in our appeal relative to this case against this organization behind us in June, and we just moved forward with the purchase and, again, realized after the fact we needed a HOP approval. In terms of the request of the condition to ask that we change the siding to wood, again, I appreciate patina as much as anybody else. I'm a rat rod car fan. I love the look of rusty old cars, rusty old buildings. The side of our house and the brick and stone has a lot of patina, a lot of various inflections, and we appreciate that. But as you can see, one of the reasons that you would require that is for the aesthetic feel of, hey, this is a historic property. We want it to look and feel historic. I think it does look and feel historic from a distance. The only people that might know that it's a vinyl siding is you guys as experts might be able to see that within 25 feet. You could not make that assertion based on looking at this picture as it is. My wife and I are the only ones that typically see this view because the shed is back behind trees in a log cabin. So at this point, to change that shed over to wood and paint it would probably be in excess of $5,000 to $7,000. So I'm going to ask you for your mercy and forgiveness and make us not do that condition for that cost factor. Again, I think the shed has the look and feel that everybody wants the property to have. That money, if you guys want to add a condition, maybe it's that we spend that money elsewhere on the property to do something else, that you guys come out and say of your choosing, hey, we would appreciate if you did this aspect or upgrade to the property. But when managing a historic property like this, it is about making decisions about priorities of what needs to get done first, what is most important. As you can, I'm sure, well respect, the age of this house being upwards of 290 years old, it does have a lot of requirements to maintain the chimneys, to maintain the chinking on the log cabin, to maintain the grout on the stone and the brick. So again, that is what, whether or not that is a wood-sided shed, that is going to be the look. And as long as that house is right there behind the shed, the historic look and feel of the property is mitigated, basically void in that particular area. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Miller? Commissioner Doman?
All right. Is this shed a prefabricated shed?
Yes, sir.
And was it pre-made when it was delivered to you?
Yes, sir.
Came in like on a trailer and you just put it on a concrete foundation, something like that, right?
It's not even on, I mean, again, the other aspect of this is it's pseudo-permanent. I mean, I could move that out of there. Once our tenure is done at the property, if you guys don't like the fact that it has vinyl siding, we can sell it and move it off the property before we transfer the property to somebody else.
When you ordered it, isn't there not an option that says you can get wood siding, T111 siding, vinyl siding? Is that not something that you could have ordered when you purchased this?
That particular style, after the fact, I checked to see what we could have done. That siding they said it was a composite. I don't know if they meant it was like a composite wood, like a T111 or what. The T111 would have vertical. It looked more like a plywood. It was not, it was
Yeah.
a cheaper look than we wanted to go with. The house has horizontal planking, and we wanted to match up with that as much as possible. You know, theoretically, if we ordered something, I guess, you know, we could have probably matched that. We went up to the Myers Mini Barn in Woodbine that has sheds on stock, on site, and basically picked this off the lot because we wanted to get it up there as quickly as possible. We had just gone through a Board of Appeals hearing. Mr. Peters, our neighbor, came out of that guns a-blazing, threatening to sue us, particularly, you know, he's going to enjoy suing me. Was standing on the back of the property the next day, veering into our backyard while I'm there. So, you know, I did it expeditedly. I did it to get it done, to not have to look at him. He don't want to look at me, I don't want to look at him. So I apologize that it happened in the expediency that it did, in the manner that it did. That's how we got here.
And how long has it been on your property?
June 26th or 7th.
This year?
Correct.
This year, okay. And is it used like a office area, or is it just a shed?
No, I mean, I need to talk to you guys at some point about where on my property I can put some equipment coverage and shed, because I have my tractor out, I have my utility vehicle out. I mean, I have motorcycles sitting outside right now because I don't have room for them. The property does not have a garage. So, I mean, I have toys. I'm a guy, I work on a farm. I like to ride a motorcycle. I mean, that's going to cover like the snow blower, the mower, one of my motorcycles, all my tools. I mean, it can only handle so much. It's a 12 by 16 shed.
Yeah, it's too bad.
I want to see if there are any other questions before you. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner Nasser?
Commissioner Nasser, it's actually more clarification. I did not have a chance to go visit the site, just want to clarify. In the aerial view, we see the road that it's on the very right side of the image. Is that the public
I'm sorry, I cannot hear
way?
you.
Can we go to the aerial view, Dan, please?
So the area that we were looking at is approximately
Right.
here.
So the road that we see on the right side of this image, is that the public?
So this is Muncaster Road here.
And then
So,
the
so
road-
the house is approximately 700 feet from the road.
And that the other
then it's another-
that's the private road that goes to the property, right?
Yes.
So the public can just be on that, all right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's not really someplace.
Any other
to-
questions before we go? Okay, Commissioner Doman.
Just one quick, have you actually gotten quotes to do siding on this? Or is that cost that you stated just your?
I mean, I talked to Myers Mini Barn to see what it would cost to do something like that in wood, and it was like prefabbed already was like $2,000, so. And that wasn't even that it was wood. To get authentic wood from like, I did some research at Home Depot, Lowe's. I mean, I'm estimating it with the time, materials, you know, probably easily $5,000.
Thank you.
Which my neighbor would appreciate if you guys would make me pay, but I'm hoping that that's not the case.
Okay, when we consider this, we need to, as staff report mentioned, we need to review it as if it doesn't exist currently. So, is there a motion on this project? We can have a discussion if you'd like. Would you like to kick off the discussion, sir?
I find this one hard to decide on thinking about this. I agree with staff position. I wish it was wood. I'd like to think it could be done for, I mean, I'm a retired carpenter, and I think we could do it for a lot less than $5K. I'm sure you could do it for the price of the wood and some labor, and just go over everything. I mean, if the problem is appearance, all you have to do is cover it up. You know, you don't have to tear off anything. Just put some T111 on it and paint it and be done with it, you know. I mean, that's kind of what I would do on the thing. I don't love vinyl siding, and I don't think vinyl siding belongs on this. I just wish it had been done in a different way. So those are my comments to
One thing I
staff.
did, the shutters, the doors, all the white siding is actually, I think, T111, so the only thing would be the gray is.
Anyone else? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission, in accordance with the standards set forth in Section 24A of Montgomery County Code, approve HOP number 1045917 at 19,000 Muncaster Road, Durwood, with the, including the condition of, the staff recommending condition, the exterior siding needs to be wood or T111 and not vinyl. This would satisfy the criteria under Chapter 24A 8B, to having found that the proposal will not substantially alter the exterior features of the historic resource, and with the Secretary of Interior Standards Rehabilitation 2, 9, and 10.
Is there a second? I will second the motion. This is Chair Sutton. I think what we should do here is, let's do a roll call, starting on my left, either yay, nay, or abstain, starting with Commissioner Galway.
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Nasser, yay.
Commissioner Haynes, yay.
Commissioner Rado, no.
Commissioner Dolman abstains.
Commissioner Dominiani, nay.
Commissioner Sutton, yay. So what do we got?
Commissioner Burdett says yay.
Okay. So I believe that's 4 yay?
That's
Correct?
4 to 2.
4 to 2 to-
4 to 2 to 1.
Okay,
Well, no, I'm sorry. 4 to 2 to 2.
okay.
The motion passes.
The motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is, gosh, what am I doing here? Item number 2A, I'm sorry, yes, sir? Yeah. Commission number 2A at 8601 Cameron Street in Silver Spring. This is a master plan site, the Tasty Diner. And I have several names here, and I will read them off. I believe that Stacy Silber will be the lead, but I also have Andy Adams, Brian Corcoran, Daniel Seidman, Elizabeth Rogers, Catherine Jacobs, Musahid Ali, Pradi Bonerjay, Trina Rodriguez, Will Ickler, and William Bonstra. And if I mispronounced your names, I apologize. But if you could state your names for the record, that would be helpful. And you'll have, since we don't have a lot of projects tonight and since we have a lot of folks here, we'll give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you.
Before they go, Mr. Chair, I'm going to lead off with my staff
Oh, I'm sorry,
presentation.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. They're all here, so that's a good thing.
Right.
And they're ready to answer any questions that you might have. I will keep this relatively short and sweet. This is a second preliminary consultation for the Tasty Diner at 8601 Cameron Street in Silver Spring. So just, again, this is verbatim from the last one. It was constructed in 1946. It's an individually listed master plan site. It was relocated from its original location in 2000. When it was designated, only the four corners of the original dining car were nominated, and an easement was recorded on the diner when the relocation was approved. And county planning holds the easement on that property. So the applicant proposes to demolish the non-historic building additions, relocate the diner building on site, and incorporate the diner into a new mixed-use building. Again, this is reviewed under Chapter 24A, the Secretary of the Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation and Historic Preservation Easement Compliance. So when the HPC heard a preliminary consultation on August 16th of 2023, the HPC was divided on the new location for the diner. Half the commissioners supported the proposal as it was presented, and the remaining commissioners presented a range of opinions from a location that improved the relationship between the building and the street to return to a standalone structure. The Silver Spring Design Advisory Panel recently held a meeting on the project at their October 18th meeting, which was last week. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Silver Spring DAP, it's a relatively new body. This is the first project that they've considered. There is a DAP for downtown Bethesda, so we have had some projects that involve that. But this body was created as part of the downtown Silver Spring and adjacent communities sector plan. And they're responsible with recommending ways of improving the architecture, urban space, and landscape architecture consistent with the sector plan. They are all design professionals of a variety of levels of expertise, sort of in the same way that the HPC is appointed or required, except this body is approved by the planning board rather than the county council. So they assist the planning board and provide feedback before sketch plan and site plan. And I believe their comments were also uploaded into your board book as part of the public testimony. So the primary question for this preliminary consultation is the revised diner location a suitable location to preserve its historic character? And a suitable location is the language from the master plan designation. And if the HPC determines that the revised location is appropriate, the applicant requests the HPC issue a letter in support of the project to the planning board for its sketch plan review, which is coming up as soon as it can be scheduled. So just a reminder, this is what the commission looked at in August of 2023. The dining car was parallel to the front of the proposed building. There was an overhang that covered a portion of the building, and the dining car sat flush up against the glass wall of the atrium. In the revised proposal, you can't see it in elevation, but the dining car has been pulled so it runs parallel to Cameron, and it's pulled away from the building, so there's a bit of a hyphen or hallway or breezeway between the dining car and the atrium. So it's rotated the diner, it's moved it approximately 13 feet forward, so it directly fronts Cameron Street. And the applicant proposes restoring the southwest corner of the diner to allow more of the diner to read as an independent structure. And I know that the hatching may be difficult to see on your screens, but the location of the original diner, or the relocation of the diner, the 2000 location of the diner, is outlined in blue here. The previous proposal had it located here, flush up against the building, and now they've sort of rotated it and moved it closer. It actually abuts the property boundary in the northwest corner here. So again, this was the previous proposal that you looked at in August, where it was sort of a little bit off the center of the street, and now it aligns with Cameron Street. And a couple renderings that were included in the application. Again, on the left is in August, where it was flush up against the atrium. Now we have more space between the two, and it's not underneath the overhang any longer. The perspective makes these two a little bit difficult to compare, but you can see the sidewalk is the same in the image in the upper left. You can see the distance from the sidewalk to the entrance of the diner there, as opposed to here. It's much closer to the street and engages with Cameron Street much better. So, requested HPC feedback for this prelim is the revised diner building placement a suitable location to preserve the diner's historic character? And if so, will the HPC authorize a letter to the planning board in support of the proposal? In discussion with staff, our recommendation is if the HPC agrees that they should make a motion to vote for that letter to be written or drafted and submitted to the planning department. And with that, I will answer any questions that you have.
Any question for staff? Commissioner Doman?
Not really related. Put this on. Are there members from the DAP here today?
No. Well, so actually, one of the members of the DAP is part of the design team. So he has had to recuse himself from participating as a member of the DAP because he's an applicant.
I think I understand. Okay.
But the DAP's memo from their meeting a week ago was included in the.
Yeah, I did read their comments on it, but that doesn't really apply to what our decision is the location.
Right, well, and so, I mean, this is a challenging first project for the DAP with historic preservation as an over, as sort of an extra layer of complication. This is also an odd master plan site because it's just the four corners of the building, not the entire site. So the DAP is aware of the HPC's regulatory authority over the historic property, and they are, I don't want to say ceding all authority over this building to you, but they are effectively stepping back as this project relates to the placement of the diner, and their focus is more on the rest of the volume of the building. This will be a large building, and the DAP is more concerned about those building details.
Yeah, I know when the first preliminary consideration came before us, there was a lot of discussion about the building. Our charge from staff is to consider location. I believe that's what we're to judge upon. Right?
Yeah, so the HPC is aiding the applicant as they go forward to sketch plan, and that will help set the maximum massing that's allowed for the development. So it basically provides the applicant with some guardrails for how they can proceed with developing the plan for the rest of the project. So by setting the placement of the diner, they can then move on to the other portions of the project that are in work. So we would just like to give them a firm answer so they can move forward. And then the objective is that they will go through the sketch plan process with the planning board, and before they come back for site plan, which is their last step, they will come back before the HPC for another preliminary consultation, which could be a year from now, more or less. It just depends on how quickly things move.
Thank you for the explanation. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Now, I'm sorry for the delay. I had a little misunderstanding there about the staff report. Anyway, so I will read the names off again, or actually, I won't read the names because you can state your names for the record, and I believe Ms. Silber will be the lead. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you'll have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Stacy Silber with the law firm of Lurch, Early and Brewer. Thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm here tonight on behalf of 8676 Georgia Avenue, which is an affiliate of Roadside Development. With me here tonight are Brian Corcoran and Will Eichler of Roadside, architectural historian Andy Adams, Bill Bonstra and Daniel Seidman of Bonstra Harrison Architects, and we have some other architects in the audience as well. And then we have others that are joining us virtually. So in terms of the team that will be speaking with you tonight, it's going to be the folks that are sitting at the table, unless there's some questions that you have that others can answer. In the interest of time tonight, we're going to focus on the highlights of the materials we submitted to you. Specifically, we will highlight how the design team has rethought Tasty Diner, as Dan has discussed, in context with the new development, based on the comments that we heard from you all at our first preliminary consultation. In terms of a roadmap of what we're planning on discussing tonight, we'll share with you some background information, and then share with you a condensed version of the video, which was something that commissioners had asked for in terms of the street view, and then provide you with some information that goes through the specifics of the Tasty Diner. Next slide. So just in terms of process, Dan did a great job of kind of explaining where we are, but I wanted to just reiterate that we're very much in the beginning of the process. We're now at the second preliminary consultation with you all. We have filed a sketch plan application. The sketch plan is very general. It's a massing diagram that doesn't address building architecture or specific site improvements. We'll come back for that with the site plan process. As mentioned, we've had met with the design advisory panel, received some feedback on our general massing, and we've also met with the community on several occasions. The planning board will have a hearing on the sketch plan. We're expecting sometime later next year, and we will then file a site plan application. And then we'll come back to you all again for a third preliminary consultation to get your feedback on the design of the building and, again, the incorporation orientation with the Tasty Diner. The planning board will then hold a hearing on the site plan, and then after the board has its hearing on the site plan, we'll come back to you all again with a HOP. Next slide. As background, and as a reminder, we talked about this last time as well, that in June of 2022, the County Council adopted the Silver Spring Sector Plan and recognized the overall property as an area ripe for redevelopment. The council rezoned the Tasty Diner and the overall property and increased density and heights, allowing up to 300 feet. The council also rezoned many of the other properties in the area in the effort to encourage redevelopment and revitalization. Roadside's proposal implements the council's recommendations for the property. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Daniel, who's going to share with you a condensed version of our video. Actually, you know what? If you go back to the, let's close this out.
Or close this.
Or not close it. Yeah.
Oh.
Go minimize this.
Yeah.
And then click on that one.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Here we are walking down Cameron Street towards Ramsey Avenue. And as you can see, the historic diner car has been pulled out as far as possible towards Cameron Street and angled to be parallel to the sidewalk. It's configured so that the front entrance is at grade. The diner now appears as its own complete volume and is connected back to the main building with a transparent bridge piece tucked behind the rebuilt back corners of the diner. The building fenestration above the diner has an articulation that relates to the diner's horizontal ribbon windows and creates a special architectural condition at this corner. The special corner wraps around Ramsey with clear glazing and high-quality facade materials to activate the street and step down to the diner car.
Good evening. I'm Andy Adams, architectural historian with A. Adams and Company, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant. You can see our site here in yellow on the upper left with the existing Tasty Diner restaurant at the left or west side of the site. Most of the existing restaurant is a large addition constructed around the Tasty Diner when it was relocated to Cameron Street in 2000. You can see that addition best in the center image, kind of behind the Tasty Diner sign. You can see the roof, and the lower left image where you can see the addition to the east of the diner. This addition contains the kitchen, the back of house space, and the dining room, all necessary for the functioning of a restaurant. This addition made up for the loss of a kitchen and block addition previously attached to the diner at its original Georgia Avenue location. Those parts of the diner were not included in the historic designation and were removed and not relocated with the diner. Next, please. Here you can see the non-contributing addition, particularly on the upper left, and which you all agreed may be removed, and all the non-contributing clutter, the ramps and the railings and the non-original signage, that will be removed as part of the restoration of the diner. That aspect of the project has not changed. Next, please. This is the existing site plan for the restaurant with parking behind. The designated historic diner is outlined in yellow. You can see it's basically 2.5 facades. The back, there's no back wall, and the 2 of the corners are missing. Next, please. The plan on the left is what you saw when we were here last time. The diner car is moved about 45 feet to the west, to the corner of Cameron and Ramsey. Commission found that relocation was acceptable, but was not fully supportive of the specific location of the diner or exactly how the diner and the new construction were integrated. On the right is the current proposal. It's still moved about 45 feet to the west in response to your comments, and it's been pulled out from the building, and to the property line, both in front of the building and at the corner. So we've pulled it out as far as we can. We've rotated the diner so that it parallels the sidewalk and is clearly related to Cameron Street, while the new building actually sweeps away from Cameron Street at that point. This allows the diner to be more fully reconstructed and to read more fully proud and distinct from the new construction. You can see, hopefully here on the left, the link between the diner and the lobby of the new building, which will provide access to the space necessary to provide the best chance for future success of reuse of the diner. As we've said, the diner is too small on its own to be able to function. It needs support space, just as it did when it was on Georgia Avenue, and it has now. Next, please. This is the floor plan for the entire new building. You can see behind the diner the space that could provide support space for future use. And hopefully you can see that the diner is going to be a special feature at this corner, separate and apart from the new building. We think this is the best location for the diner for all the benefits it can provide for the site. We did look at whether the diner could be moved instead to Georgia Avenue. There are a number of reasons that doesn't work, most particularly the location of the property line, which hopefully you can see in red here, is set back from the line at the Verizon building next door. So there's a jog there. And regardless of how and where we could put the diner in that location, it can't be located as well as it is currently proposed to be separate from both the new building and the Verizon Center. It will be much more, I won't say hidden by the big buildings, but it won't have the same separate identity. And also, the diner would probably have a negative impact on potential retail uses with corner entrances at Georgia and Cameron. So again, we think that the proposed location is the best that there is. Next, please. I'm going to run quickly through our previous schemes, some of which we nixed, like the one you see here. You never saw this because the building sat too heavily on the diner. Next. We then raised the new construction up over the diner. Your staff nixed that one. Next, please. Then we got it better for the diner, but the design of the facade behind the diner didn't have any relation to the characteristics of the diner, so that also got nixed. And next. And this is what we showed you last time, where the architects, may I finish? Thank you very much. The architects created a recess to give the diner a special place of its own, and revised the design of the facade to pick up on the horizontal features of the diner, both its mass, its whole mass, and the fenestration, which is much more compatible with the character of the diner. Next, please. This is our current proposal, which we think responds to your comments from last time as it's been further refined. This retains the special place of the recess, but pulls the diner fully out from under the overhang, as you can see in the section on the right. The facade of the building behind retains the horizontality of the diner all the way throughout, and it even repeats the secondary horizontal division in the diner fenestration. So we're going down to a more detailed level. The floors behind have been divided horizontally 2/3, which creates a better scale relationship with the diner. The facade has been continued, and this was a comment, I believe, from last time. The facade has been continued around the corner and farther on Ramsey, which is much more successful, we think, both in relation to the diner and just generally from an architectural perspective, and better than the previous. And next, please.
If you could hurry up here, then we'd appreciate
Yeah,
it.
3 sections. The only two, actually, the only one you really need to look at is the one on the right, the middle one and the one on the right, which you can see we've pulled the diner completely out from under the overhang, given it space by the link that will provide access to the support space. Next. You saw this from the staff report. I'll go on. All the restoration work on the diner will be fully developed and returned to you for review when we get to that point in the review. This is a view from Ramsey. You can see that the diner creates a special place, a special pedestrian-related space here. And by rotating it and pulling it out to the property line, it is visually distinct from the building behind. It lets the piece of Silver Springs history shine here. Next, please. And here we have, again, a view from Cameron. We hope we've responded to your comments. We think these changes have improved the project significantly, both for the diner itself and for the streetscape and for the building as a whole. We hope you'll agree. We also hope you will send a letter to the planning board supporting where we are at this point. Thank you. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Commissioner Doman. Why am I not surprised?
Well, my question is not necessarily about location, but when, as it exists now, you said there was 2.5 walls that are considered historic. And then when you move it over and make it parallel to Cameron Street, there's more exposure on, I guess that'd be the west side. And the architectural drawings show you reconstructing, mimicking the existing design, right? In some senses, and this is a little bit off the track here, but in some sense, we strive for differentiation when something is original and something is man-made to copy something. And it'd be nice if there was some way that, I mean, I like the looks of it, don't get me wrong. I like the way you wrapped it around and everything, but it seems to be creating a false sense of history by wrapping this thing completely around. And I wonder if you could address that.
I understand your question and your point. I think in this instance, we know what was there. We have the existing and we know what it was. So we're not really creating something that is false. It just happens to be missing at the moment. It is reconstruction / restoration. If you all find it necessary to make a distinction, I'm sure we can figure out a way to do that. I think it will be really terrific for the diner to be able to put the pieces back, since we know how to do it. But again, if so directed, we will endeavor to do something that makes a distinction.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there because in previous deliberations, we have never we do lean towards false creation of history, in
I
this,
don't-
this document here.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that because we know what it was, and it's been there relatively recently. I think if we were building something new to make it look old, that would not be the right thing to do. But we've got the documentation to reconstruct it.
And then again, it's kind of off the topic, but in some other cases, we had like a nomenclature, like, this is not the real wall, or something like that put on it, I mean, I like the way it looks, don't get me wrong, I like the way it looks, but it seems to be creating something that wasn't there.
Well, it was there, just not there now.
Okay.
So, but again, we are open to a discussion with you all and staff about how to do that when we get to the specifics of the restoration plan.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Haynes?
Remind me what the building will be used for. It's no longer a restaurant, is it just community space? Is it rental space?
It's designed to be a restaurant again, subject to market conditions, finding a restaurateur to occupy the space, but it's designed to accommodate a future restaurant use.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I think we need to do two things. First of all, I would like for us to tell you what we think of the placement, whether we think this is suitable or not suitable. And that's not going to be a vote. What we will do is, I will ask people to give their opinions, whether they think this is appropriate or not appropriate. And when we've completed that, we will determine whether or not, by a vote, whether we want to authorize a letter to the planning board in support of this proposal. Okay. So would anyone like to lead off, and Commissioner Burdett, I'm not going to forget you, online, but anyone like to lead off on whether they think this is a suitable location? Commissioner Haynes.
Thank you. I'm pretty much in agreement with the strategy. I think pulling it away from the building as you've done and exposing the side towards Ramsey is a good move that responds to the sidewalk, the street scale. It allows it to hold its own identity relative to the larger building. I would take the opposite approach to Commissioner Doman in that I do think the materials should be replicated, restored, and be continuous as it would have originally. So I do think it is suitable here. It responds more to the lower residential scale buildings to the west. Relates more to the walkable sidewalk along Cameron. And so I think this is an improvement, and getting it out from under the building works well. Thank you.
Commissioner Nasser.
Commissioner Nasser, I pretty much agree with Commissioner Haynes. I appreciate the steps you created on the Ramsey Street to kind of give the building its own presence at that corner. I actually lived in that neighborhood, and in the morning and evening, it's a very busy corner. People coming from the metro, going towards the metro. So based on the constraints we have, the property line and other constraint of the site, I think it's appropriate, the location, the reconstruction of the building to this, reconstructing the building to the shape that you proposed. And in general, I'm in support of it. But I know this is at very early stages, but in the future, if you could just step back that part of the building that kind of overshadows, I know there's a gap, but even further step it back, it would be very great. Thank you.
Commissioner Galway.
Commissioner Galway, I too am in favor of this new location. I think it's totally suitable. Two other comments, I think in terms of restoring the existing Tasty Diner, I actually think that since it was originally fully, it sounds like it was fully, the exterior was full surrounding of the space, that in returning that, I think it's appropriate to go ahead and restore it using the exact materials as it originally was built. So it's not a situation where you're adding something on, but you're restoring it. So I would be in favor of doing that as well. One of the images from Ramsey, I think it was the second image, I don't know if that's something we can put up. It's intriguing that the building above your new construction, let me see, there's no number on it, so I really don't, right there, that's good. If you look at the image on the right-hand side, it's amazing how you've kind of, by doing the ribbon windows, you've kind of paralleled the scale, although it's much larger, is similar to that of the Tasty Diner, and I think that's interesting. It looks as though, and it's hard to tell from the old photos, but it looks as though the Tasty Diner actually on the south, I guess, be the northeast corner there, it actually is rounded. It'd be, if you're looking for a place to spend some money, maybe you could do that on the building itself and just put a small corner on there. I know it'd be very complicated with the screening and the wall, but it's just sort of an architectural element that might actually even tie the two together even a little bit more. Just a thought. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Damiani.
Hi there. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm noting in the last time you came in August, we talked about how many people engage with this site coming from 2nd Avenue along Cameron, which has a bit of a curve to it. And I wanted to just remark that I think that the way that you've brought it forward to Cameron, number one, and then also bring that horizontality on the 3rd through, I guess, like 7th or 8th floors deeper into Ramsey is really successful. And that sort of response and engaging with the horizontality of the diner and bringing that deeper along that corner is great. So thank you for responding to our comments from back then and modifying the design accordingly. I think it's very successful, and I could see myself supporting it.
Great. Commissioner Radu.
I agree with the location. It seems it's better than the previous ones, closer to the street, more like what would have been the historic, well, I mean, not along this street, but closer to a street. I know you pulled it forward and it's not really under the building, but the fact that this building is still leaning, I feel like it's still kind of on top of it, even if it's not technically when you look at the section. So I don't know if something can be done about that. But I agree that about the reconstruction, I don't have any problems if this is reconstructed fully.
Thank you. Commissioner Doman.
I think we have one more after me. But anyway, I support the movement of it. Our chore as the HBC is to comment on the revised position of this, and I support the new position that's been brought forth by the applicant. Thank you.
I see Commissioner Burditt's hand is raised. So would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. I also support the new location, the revised location of the Tasty Diner. I think moving it out and angling it has helped this project a great deal. It gives a sense of independence to the Tasty Diner, and the glass connection will probably be more visible than it appears in your elevations, but it would certainly be so much better than what you had before. And I am still very concerned with the leaning facade overhead. I agree with Commissioner Radu that that's still problematic. And it's possible part of the problem is just a lack of refinement on that exterior elevation, those two exterior elevations. I think you need to look harder at that elevation, because the diner is down there and has its design elements. If you put something that's too plain above, it's gonna look really plain. But also you don't want to, copy too tightly what's down below. There's a delicate balance you have to strike for that, those two elevations, and I don't think you're there yet. I am intrigued with Commissioner Galway's comment about curving that corner. I think that might actually help. A little bit of a radius on that corner might be an interesting detail that you should explore, because right now that whole parking garage deck is, facade is just looking really thin and cheap, and it's probably just the rendering that's doing it, but I think you need to prove to us that it's going to look better than it does right now. So again, I support the location of the Tasty Diner in this new rendering and proposal, and look forward to what you'll bring back to us at the next preliminary. Thank you.
This is Chair Sutton, and I would like to essentially say what my last couple of colleagues have said. I think it's better. I think the location is better. It's one thing that just bothers me. It's very, very overwhelmed by the building. And I think one thing that would help would be to find some way to move the overhang back. I just feel like that contributes to the overwhelming of this little building. And I think it's much better, but I just really would like to see some more work done on moving that part of the building back. I think it just would help the whole design. And with that, I understand that you would like to ask if we have any if you'd like to ask for some clarification on any of the comments that we have.
No, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I'll defer to our design team if they have anything particular, but, we will be back before you, multiple times going forward and can get into the details of the finer points of architecture, the materiality. I know we spent a lot of time discussing those at our meeting in August, and we'll be back again next year as we continue to develop our plans.
Thank you. Now, the other issue is I would like to welcome a motion either to or not to send a letter to the planning board in support or not in support of this project. Do I have a motion for that? Commissioner Haynes.
Yes, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission write a letter of support to the planning board for the new location of the Tasty Diner as presented in this presentation.
This is Commissioner.
Oh, I have
Domenici.
all
I'll
kinds of
second.
ones here. Commissioner Domenici.
This is Commissioner Domenici. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you very much. We will do that. We will draft a letter and send it off shortly. Correct? Am I?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your comments. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Okay, next item on the agenda is, if I can find the darn thing. Well, I've got stuff floating all over the place here. Here we go. Next item on the agenda is item number 3, which is a discussion and adoption of the HPC policy number 23-01 for policies, procedures related to non-extant master plan sites. And if I may just say a little bit about this, this is a subcommittee of our committee that met twice to discuss this issue and to come up with a proposal to present to you. Essentially what the proposal says, you can read it, hopefully it's very clear. What we're trying to do is streamline the process for non-extant historic buildings. So this, we believe, will streamline the process. And the second item that you see here One thing we also propose to do is to start the process of trying to get an issue before the county commission, county board, so that we won't even have to go through a process. We'll go through a very simple process to remove properties from the master plan site. So, anyone on the committee like to add anything to this? Okay. So what I would welcome would be a motion to approve this policy number 23-01. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve policy number 23-01, adopted policy for the regulatory review of demolished, destroyed master plan sites as laid out in this document.
Commissioner Dominiani.
This is Commissioner Dominiani. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you very much. This will be our new policy, and hopefully this will streamline this process. Thank you. Next item is minutes. We have minutes from 2 previous meetings, September 20th and October 11th. Has anyone had a chance to read these? And would like to make a motion? Well, I read them, and I would like to make a motion that we approve both of these minutes. This is Chair Sutton. Is there a second?
Commissioner Haynes will second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is commission items. I don't believe we have any new commission items, unless I missed it. And staff items, I would like to have a motion, if you all had a chance to look at the proposed meetings for next year. Is there a motion to approve the dates of meetings for 2024?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Historic Preservation Commission approve the HPC meeting calendar for 2024.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Galway, I second it.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. And with that, I believe,
Sorry, no, I had,
one more thing, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yep. Boy, I'm getting.
Just before we adjourn, I would like to put on the record the department's sincere thanks for Mr. Michael Kine and his nearly 10 years of service with the Historic Preservation Office.
Thank you, Michael.
And to wish him all the best.
I didn't want to have that on there because I don't want him to leave.
I know.
So there.
And all the best to you in your adventures in California.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we are adjourned. And thank you, Michael. Enjoyed working with you very much.